but there's a bit of a caveat. The question we really need to be asking is, can St James's Park be extended enough? Exciting regarding the Newcastle United takeover shows absolutely no signs of letting up, just over a week since the club was sold by Mike Ashley to a consortium fronted by Amanda Staveley and heavily backed by the Saudi Public Investment Fund, or the PIF for short. And one other topic of conversation, inevitably, is the future of St James's Park itself, and whether or not the current capacity is going to be fit for purpose going forward. Spoiler alert, it's not. We all know that even in the dark days of Ashley, the club hasn't really struggled to fill the 52,000 seats currently on offer for the majority of that time. Only really in the past 2 years since Steve Bruce replaced Rafa Benitez has there been plenty of spare seats available, and of course we ended up with that 10,000 free tickets giveaway a couple of years ago. The takeover going through though brings back memories of the time Keegan arrived to save the club in 1992. St James's Park looked very different back then, but we went from crowds of around 17,000 to the ground instantly being sold out match after match. Season tickets became a must-have item for Newcastle supporters. Luckily for me, aged just 9 at the time, my dad was forward-thinking enough to buy himself, my brother and me a half-season ticket in the Millburn paddock. We were in, and we were one of the lucky ones. Even though the stadium is much larger in 2021 than it was 3 decades ago, the feeling of wanting to be there is like history repeating itself. We can all sense the exciting new era, and fans want to be a part of it, just as they did when Keegan gave us the world. Put simply, 52,000 seats is not going to suffice in an era where Premier League football has never been more popular both at home and abroad. Let's not forget, we also live in an age where there is a clear trend that people want to spend their disposable income on experiences. And what better experiences they're going to be than following Newcastle United over the next decade? The new owners will have to address the issues around capacity very, very quickly, I think. But what are the options? In an ideal world, Newcastle United will stay at St James's Park, the home of the club since the 1880s. We are fortunate enough to have never had to move site. As the city has developed almost beyond recognition around St James's Park, the stadium has grown and changed too. What makes our stadium so special for me and many others is the location. To have such a monument right in the heart of a city as fantastic as Newcastle is unprecedented. Famously, St James's Park is the stadium with the highest number of bars and pubs within a 15-minute walk. Seeing the crowds kitted out in black and white head up the hill towards the stadium on a match day from the city centre is a beautiful, beautiful sight, and I hope we never lose that. The question is, can St James's Park be extended? The answer to that is yes, but there's a bit of a caveat. The question we really need to be asking is, can St James's Park be extended enough? And that is a tougher question to answer for a few reasons. Firstly, what is enough? Who actually knows what a reasonable capacity will look like in 5 or 10 years' time? 60,000, 70,000, more? Secondly, say millions of pounds is spent renovating and increasing the ground. What if the increased capacity turns out to not be enough at that point? Yes, the Saudis are incredibly rich, but they're also business people who don't want to waste money. There's a chance that they could look at a small extension of, say, the Gallagher end as not being financially viable. Thirdly, nobody really knows what the limit is for extending the current stadium at this point. In the early days of Ashley, there was talk of extending the Gallagher end. Frankly, that's quite laughable now, but that did happen in the very, very early days of Ashley. But that would have required extending out far behind Strawberry Place, and that, as far as we now know, is simply not an option because in one final act of greed and pettiness, Mike Ashley sold that land that was ripe for club development to pocket himself a few extra quid. Essentially, he hamstrung the club's future in what I believe was a deliberate act of pettiness aimed at stifling the club long after he'd gone. However, since these plans were drawn up, technology and engineering abilities have moved on. And I remember reading that the Gallagher could potentially still be extended with a smaller footprint. This would simply require building a new tier quite literally above the current Gallagher stand. Then we have the issue of the East Stand. For years, the East Stand has been problematic because of the Grade 2 listed buildings that sit directly behind it. A few years back, it was said that those buildings could, in theory, be moved brick by experts and rebuilt somewhere else. But the cost of that allegedly would have been as much as building a new stadium. Again, are the Saudis really going to be prepared to do that just for the sake of staying at St James's Park? A stadium that they have no affinity to, remember. If they did that, then great. I'm sure St James's Park could be extended to 70,000 or 80,000 and we'd never have to move again. But the other option, if the new owners really want to increase capacity but don't think it's viable at St James's Park, is to look for a new site. Personally, I would hate to see Newcastle leave St James's Park. The memories and attachment I have to that beautiful place are deep-rooted. Leaving would be hard and uncomfortable. And if I'm honest, I would reject any proposals for a new stadium. However, thinking of it with a level head, I could see that there are many advantages to moving if it were to happen, and here's why. Hi, sorry for interrupting the video. I just wanted to very quickly tell you about my brand new free weekly newsletter that you can sign up to using Substack. Each week I'm going to be previewing the upcoming game, looking at the last week's news. There'll be trivia, there'll be stats, and it's all free, sent directly to your message box. So if you want to subscribe, just go to the link below this video and there's a link there that you can follow, and it'd be great to see some of you over there. Thank you. Back to the video. So what are these advantages of moving stadiums? Firstly, any new stadium would be state of the art. It would be a gold standard amongst stadiums if the Saudis were to build it, because in their culture, being the best is important. Think Spurs and then make it even better. As much as I love St James's Park, it not only needs extending, but it also needs modernising too. Secondly, more supporters will get to watch the team, and I'm absolutely all for that. I want as many people to be able to watch Newcastle as possible, and if the only way for that to happen is by moving locations, then I could live with that. We want the next generation of supporters, including my own daughters, to be able to have easy access to the team so they can create memories that older fans were really fortunate to do during the 90s and 2000s. And also, a new site would surely mean that the club, as well as building a new stadium, would develop the area around it into a sports village that includes state-of-the-art training facilities where the first team, youth teams, women's teams, kids teams all get to work there too. The sky would be the limit, and it would be very exciting to see a development like that in Newcastle, because it would benefit the city as a whole. But we would potentially be losing something special and unique. The location of St James's Park. Is the location and our affinity as fans to the current stadium reason enough not to move? What would you like to see happen? Would you accept seeing St James's Park increase to 60,000? Or do you believe that the club will need to move stadiums in order to get a larger capacity capable of sustaining the fan base for the decades ahead? Let me know in the comments below, and please don't forget to check out my free newsletter too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you really soon for another video.